Assalamu alaikum. So today our topic is about vitamin B6, which is also known as pyridoxine or pyridoxine. Remember here, isoniazid and oral contraceptive pills lead to its deficiency. What is isoniazid? This is an anti-TB drug. Now we will see sources. In sources of vitamin B6, there are meat, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Now, function of vitamin B6. This vitamin B6 act as a coenzyme in heme biosynthesis. So our RBC will form and also participate in the metabolism of methionine amino acid. We will discuss this later in metabolisms. And in synthesis of vitamin B3 niacin, we already discussed this before. Also, histamine and other neurotransmitters are synthesized by vitamin B6 like serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine. What are the features of deficiency of pyridoxine? These are acquired sideroblastic anemia, which is also a microcytic anemia. What will happen here in sideroblastic anemia? There will be no proper heme biosynthesis, as we discussed that it participates in heme biosynthesis, so there will be no heme synthesis, which will lead to iron accumulation in the blast cells. So this will lead to dyserythropoiesis, no proper formation of the RBCs, and these RBCs will be smaller in size. Then its feature of deficiency, it can also cause peripheral neuropathy, in which there will be tingling and numbness sensations. Then there is homocystinemia. This homocystinemia will lead to ischemic heart disease. Homocysteine and cysteine, this we will discuss in metabolisms. So how homocystinemia lead to ischemic heart disease? This homocystinemia, it will cause endothelial injury, and then we know atheroma formation will occur when the process will go up to, and this will lead to ischemic heart disease due to more atheromas in blood vessels. It is vitamin B9. Now vitamin B9 is also called the folic acid, and this is very important in a female who want to be pregnant. So we can use this vitamin or folic acid, we can use 1 month before conception in women. Sources: the green leafy vegetables are the sources of vitamin B9 or folic acid. If we eat less green leafy vegetables, then this will lead to deficiency of folic acid. Other causes: anti-epileptic drugs, anti-cancer drug, and immunosuppressant can cause deficiency of folic acid. In anti-epileptic, we have phenytoin, valproic acid, and carbamazepine. In immunosuppressant, we have methotrexate, etc. Now, function of folic acid. This will again help in methionine metabolism. Vitamin B6, B9, and B12 will help in methionine metabolism. This is amino acid, we will discuss in later. Help in purine and pyrimidine biosynthesis. Purine and pyrimidine biosynthesis is very useful in formation of these cells, DNA and RNA. And the important function of folic acid is closure of anterior and posterior neuropores in embryo or during baby development. So this will close our neuropores. Now there are some points of folic acid, which is folic acid or vitamin B9 absorbed in jejunum. So here we can see fail and go to jail. So fail, go to jail, FJ, which is folic acid in jejunum. Other point, it can synthesized by bacterial cell, not by the human cell. And folic acid is the second most common deficient nutrient in female in Pakistan. First one is iron and the second one is vitamin B9. while in United States of America first is vitamin B9. Features of deficiency. So the importance are megaloblastic anemia. This will lead to how? Because there will be no proper formation of purine and pyrimidine, which causing impaired formation of the cell, as genome cell will not divide it but make hemoglobin for two cells. Means the genome cell in a cell, it have to divide in other cell, but in megaloblastic anemia it will not divide because of not proper formation of the purine and pyrimidine. So it will make hemoglobin for two cell, but due to no division this will lead to big cell formation, like RBC will become big. This is short review. Next is neural tube defect. Because of no closure of, or you can say no proper closure of anterior and posterior neuropores, there will be neural tube defect in babies. So because of this neural tube defect in baby, we say female can take folic acid before 1 month. Now what are the example of neural tube defects? These are spinal bifida occulta and meningoceles. Other feature of deficiency is homocystinemia, which will lead to ischemic heart disease. Daily intake of folic acid is 50 to 200 mg. We can take after the recommendation of doctor. And there is one MCQ or question: which vitamins are hematopoietic vitamins? So those are folic acid and cobalamin, which is vitamin B12. These will take part in hematopoiesis in the bone marrow. Next is vitamin B12, which is also known as cobalamin. So sources of cobalamin are animal meat. We can take vitamin B12 from animal meat only. Mostly meat or dairy products are the sources of vitamin B12. In body, it can be stored about 5000 microgram in the liver, and this will be sufficient for 3 to 4 years. Mechanism of absorption of vitamin B12. This vitamin B12 for its absorption need intrinsic factor, and this will absorb at terminal ileum. So the terminal ileum, our part of intestine, small intestine. How? There are 6 steps. Firstly, we take animal meat or animal protein. This have vitamin B12. This will go in our mouth. There will be parotid glands. Now parotid gland release vitamin B12 binding protein, which is known as cobalamin. But here it will remain separate from each other. It will not bind in our mouth or esophagus, but it will bind in our stomach. How? In stomach, pepsin break vitamin B12 from animal protein, and then this B12 vitamin will bind with the cobalamin or vitamin B12 binding protein, which was released from the parotid glands. Then within the stomach, parietal and gastric cell release the intrinsic factor. Remember, parietal and gastric cells release intrinsic factor, and this all happen in our stomach. Now this will bind, intrinsic factor will bind with the vitamin B12 in duodenum. As I already discussed that intrinsic factor is needed for the absorption of the vitamin B12. Duodenum, when this will reach into the duodenum, there will be protease which will release from pancreas. So protease present in pancreatic juice, then break cobalamin from the intrinsic this cobalamin from the vitamin B12, and then this vitamin B12 will bind with the intrinsic factor in duodenum. So then when this will reach at terminal ileum, there are mucosal cells in terminal ileum which have receptors for intrinsic factor. So mucosal cell of terminal ileum will capture the intrinsic factor and separated alone vitamin B12 will be absorbed in blood. Once it will reach into the blood, it will be carried out in our body by a vitamin B12 binding protein called transcobalamin. So two protein vitamin B12 binding protein we discuss, one is cobalamin and other is transcobalamin. Transcobalamin in blood and cobalamin in which was released from parotid glands. Function of vitamin B12: this is responsible for the biosynthesis of purine and pyrimidine, same like vitamin B9, also involved in methionine metabolism, which is amino acid metabolism, and it will also involve in coenzyme. It is act as a coenzyme of methylmalonyl CoA mutase, and then it also function as hematopoietic vitamin. Remember here it act as a coenzyme of methylmalonyl CoA, which will be a very good clinical point next. So now causes of deficiency of vitamin B12. There is mnemonic less dye per right eye. So less dye per right eye, less intake of meat, Diphyllobothrium latum, this is a tapeworm, and then there will be overgrowth bacteria. From P there is pernicious anemia, in which there is intrinsic factor deficiency. Then right hemicolectomy, which is a surgery process in which you will remove that part of intestine where vitamin B12 have to absorb. Then there is IBD or Crohn's disease. IBD is inflammatory bowel disease. So these are the causes of deficiency of vitamin B12. Now we will see the features of deficiency. From functions we can see features of deficiency. First function was biosynthesis of purine and pyrimidine by converting inactive vitamin B9 to active folic acid. So there will be megaloblastic anemia again. Then there is one more function, it also involved in homocysteine amino acid metabolism. So if there will be no, so this can cause homocystinemia, same like vitamin B6 and vitamin B9 or folic acid or pyridoxine. Then there will be pyrexia of unknown origin is the feature of deficiency of cobalamin. How? This will occur due to ineffective hematopoiesis, which will lead to destruction of the RBC within the bone marrow, causing release of interleukins, which cause, we already know interleukin can cause fever. So if there is fever not gone after treatment, and this fever is for 15 or more days, and there will be no any cause found, so this can be due to vitamin B12 deficiency. Then there is subacute degeneration of spinal cord, the disease of our neurology topic. What will happen here? There is, we already discussed in function that cobalamin will act as coenzyme of methylmalonyl CoA mutase. So what will happen? This methylmalonyl CoA is a fatty acid, and this is a toxic fatty acid. We should convert this toxic fatty acid to non-toxic. Means methylmalonyl CoA should be converted into succinyl CoA. So this function is done by vitamin B12. If there is no, or if there is deficiency, so toxic fatty acid increase in our body, and this will lead to, this methylmalonyl CoA will lead to breakdown of myelin sheaths, where this will break down our myelin sheath in corticospinal tract, in nerves, and in the dorsal column tract. Corticospinal tract will cause mono or hemiplegia, loss of sensations, and dorsal column tract if involved and myelin sheath is breakdown in dorsal column tract, so there will be loss of vibration and there will be joint pain. This is starting symptoms. So vitamin B12 can give neurological symptoms, fever and megaloblastic anemia. Vitamin B9 give us megaloblastic anemia. With that, it has function in neural tube development. And vitamin B6, if there is pyridoxine or vitamin B6 deficiency, this will lead to acquired sideroblastic anemia. This was our topic.